Athens, Greece, 39 BC. The Trial and Death of Socrates. Short story, The Deciding Pebble. Socrates does not recognize the gods of the city. Socrates is poisoning and corrupting the youth. Meletus's sycophantic voice echoed. It ricocheted off the courthouse walls, grating as the screech of metal on stone. Hundreds of pairs of eyes were fixed on a shabby old man standing alone in the circle of judgment, mine included, but my mind was not there. It drifted back to a sweltering afternoon in the agora. I overheard Socrates ask a sculptor, a colleague of mine, "You say you carve a beautiful statue, but what is beauty itself?" That question had lodged itself in my mind ever since. It was like an invisible fissure in the most expensive block of marble. The naked eye could not see it, but a stonemason knows that a single misplaced strike of the hammer could shatter the whole thing into 100 pieces. I am Lycon, a stonemason of Athens. My life is stone, chisel, and hammer. Every day I seek perfection in every line. I turn lifeless blocks of rock into the straight columns of temples and the statues of gods with flawless proportions. To me, the world needs order, clear rules. Like how a straight line cannot bend and a right angle cannot be obtuse. Precision is my truth. Our Athens had just staggered out of its darkest years. The Peloponnesian War had taken nearly everything from us. I had seen brothers who never returned from Sicily. I had seen our proud city walls torn down by the Spartans. I had chiseled too many tombstones for families with no men left. Then came the brutal rule of the 30 tyrants. Our democracy had only just been restored. It was as fragile and vulnerable as a new wall, its mortar still wet. And to rebuild the foundation must be solid. That foundation was built on faith in our patron gods, absolute respect for the law, and a shared belief in a preordained order. Socrates and his relentless questions were like a quarryman. He was diligently chipping away at the very foundation we were desperately trying to patch up. The men in power feared he was creating a generation of rebels, while common men like me feared his questions would anger the gods and bring their wrath upon Athens once more. I returned to the suffocating reality of the trial. When it was his turn to speak, Socrates did not beg. He did not weep or bring out his wife and children to appeal to our pity. No, he calmly lectured us. He compared himself to a gadfly sent by the gods to sting the great but lazy horse of Athens, to keep it awake and moving. A fire rose in my chest. We, the citizens who had bled and wept for this city, were being called a lazy horse? He was standing before a court that held his life in its hands, and he chose to be arrogant. That arrogance to a builder like me was a contempt for order, for the law, and for the sacrifices of us all. And then the moment of decision arrived. We were each given 2 pebbles, one solid, one hollow. The solid pebble was for a guilty verdict. I clutched it in my calloused palm. I did not hate Socrates, but I loved Athens more. I feared the chaos his questions could unleash more than I feared an enemy's sword. To protect the still wet wall of our democracy, I had to remove the man who threatened its foundation. I dropped my pebble into the fateful urn. It was a necessary hammer blow, though I knew it would shatter a masterpiece of creation. Socrates is dead. Athens did seem quieter after that. No one loitered in the market corners anymore, asking questions that unsettled people. I went back to my work, to my stones and my precision, but something had changed forever. Sometimes, while carving a statue, my hand would suddenly stop in midair. I would ask myself, what makes a statue beautiful? and the old man's voice would echo in my ear. A relentless whisper, "But what is beauty itself, Lycon?" I see his students like Plato, gathering. Their eyes are no longer lost, but burn with a different kind of fire. They are writing down his every word. It seemed that killing Socrates did not extinguish his questions. On the contrary, it made him a martyr. It made his questions immortal. We had eliminated a man to protect the city's order. But now, in the quiet of Athens, I find myself asking, is an order built on the fear of questions truly an order worth protecting? We craved stability, but did we pay for it with the very soul of Athens? The spirit of inquiry and freedom. And the greatest question that haunts me nightly is this: when you must choose between the safety of a familiar order and a thorny truth that might shatter it, which way will your pebble fall?